The St. Louis Blues deserve to have fun, but right now it is the hunt towards getting a playoff spot.
Hey, this is Brandon Chen. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I'm going to talk about how the boys needed a casino night and kind of get into why I feel like having some downtime is actually beneficial. The defense might be an issue, and the positive side to finishing in the middle. Maybe I will go on a rant, maybe not, most likely will. But we're going to discuss a lot on today's episode of LOB Locked On Blues. Like always, make sure to subscribe here on YouTube at Locked On Blues or anywhere where you get your podcast. And with that being said, let's go right into it. So for the St. Louis Blues, obviously, I think they've been fantastic since the break, and they have really proved that they are hungry when it comes to getting into the playoffs. And last night was their casino night. And I have to tell you, I looked at some pictures. I saw, Robert Thomas. I saw the guys in an atmosphere where they could kind of let loose a little bit. And I feel like that is really important for them. And I hate to be like, oh, well, hockey runs on vibes. But let's be completely honest. There is a sense that is kind of the vibe check when it comes to the NHL season. And with the Blues having that loss, right, against the Kings, I'm not saying it took away any kind of momentum, um, but obviously at the end of the day, it's not the most ideal situation for them to be in, especially. And again, I think they've been playing fantastic, and I'm not saying that they haven't, but it was just a really brutal overtime, and I think that's what the problem is that the overtime was just so atrocious, and that to me just made it look like, okay, maybe the vibe check is just not it. But here's the good thing, right? I think the Blues, they have this sense of, and I want to say in this, and I mean it, they have this sense of pride and they have this sense of excitement right now, which is why I was really happy for the boys last night to have Hockey Havana nights. And I think that this was such a cool event. It was kind of like a Cuban charm, good music, and it's all for such a great cause. So, by the way, and I just want to say this, that some of the dealers they said were celebrity blues players, right? But this year's Hockey Havana Night Casino Night will support the critical programs and services at St. Louis Children's Hospital, ensuring children in our community receive the care that they need. And I have to tell you, this is something that is really important to me, the charity side of things. And I think that the boys do such a great job being able to help out the community, right? And I know that, not everybody's like philanthropic, or I probably butchered that. But I think that it is important in a way to give back to the community. 100% it's important. And I'm happy that this team, I mean, I know that it might be required, but they all look like they're having a good time doing so. And it's such a great cause. And I wanted to come on this podcast, not only to talk about the fact that it is a fun night for the players, 100%, and for the personnel. Um, but when you're doing something that's helping out the kids, right, it does, you know, mean a lot. So I think at the same time, again, you really have such a great night. You have dinner, you have music, you have games, you have so many things. And I'm really happy that the boys were able to just have such a great time. I saw them with their hats on. But I hope that this kind of like sets like the vibe again, right? And just brings the good spirits up. I mean, I think that the guys have a lot of personality on the team. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. And I think again, see pictures of players like um, Robert Thomas and Bushi, just kind of out of that element. It's a nice thing to see. And I like seeing that side of them. I feel like sometimes we see this really serious side. And And I get it. And like there's pictures of Jordan Cairo just dancing around. Like I'm looking at all these photos and it looked so great at Enterprise. And again, it's nice seeing Binner smiling. And I know what you're saying, Hale. Are you really that happy about seeing the players kind of in a fun environment? And yes, I am. Because I think that this honestly is a really good boost for the boys as well. And don't forget, on the 16th, they're going to be honoring Robert Thomas's 1,000th NHL career game ahead of the game against the Anaheim Ducks. So there is a lot to look forward to. And I, for one, love that kind of stuff. I think it's a very important, and I emphasize that because it is, but I think it's very important for this team, okay, to also have things where they can really just reset, refocus, and regroup. I would say coming out of the break, right, being 6-1-1, you beat a team like the Washington Capitals. You do these exceptional things. And the Capitals are one of the best teams in the NHL, leading the East. And for the Blues to do what they've done, right, it is phenomenal. Now, I'm going to talk about the loss of Colton Parayko, obviously, because, that's not a good thing. But I do feel like we need to discuss, we need to have that conversation of what changed prior to the break, during the break versus now. And again, we can break down statistics. And I hate doing that at times because I can tell you the records, the percentages, I can tell you all of that. But at the same time, something changed within the players. There's this new sense of motivation. And I really commend them for taking time during the break to dig down and to really come out of this break and have a push. And maybe, again, and I'm not saying that they knew that Doug Armstrong wasn't going to make any decisions or any trades at the deadline. Maybe he talked to them because he did say that he does talk to the players and he wants to do what they want, right? So maybe there was some of that. I just can't, for whatever reason, come to terms with the fact that this team is out of it yet. And maybe I'm delusional. Maybe, you know what? It probably is delusion. And there's a couple things that make me not feel so good about this team, right? And I talked about how the fact they needed to regroup. And one of the things that they need to regroup and work on is that power play. Right now, the Blues have a power play that is only 19.3%, and the PK is 71.2%. So, again, not great, okay? Especially that power play, not great. But these are things that this team can work on. And as long as you're scoring, I know, believe this, more goals than the opposing team, yet you do want power play goals, obviously. But what matters is that you're out scoring teams. So even if you're in full strength, that's all you need to do. Okay. You just need to score more. And I know that this team is capable of doing so. And you might say, well, there's teams that are better than them. Okay. Okay. But they also beat some of those teams. They probably have. I mean, I know that there are some teams that are not as good. The Blues did not beat at all this season, like the Flyers. They split again with the Islanders. Like, I get there's teams that they struggled against. They always struggle against San Jose. And for the life of me, I wish I knew why. I wish I had the answer. I wish I could come on this podcast and tell you, hey, I found out the reason why they struggle so much against the San Jose Sharks. But I cannot because I still don't get why. You have to play competitive hockey, even if you're playing against the worst team in the league or the best team in the league. But when you become lackadaisical, when you're beginning to make stupid mistakes and sloppy passes that result in turnovers, yeah, you're probably not going to win the hockey game. And you can't just say, well, if Bennington was better or if Hofer was better, because the goalie's job, yes, it is to stop the puck, but you need to have a strong defense in front of the net. And that's going to be my next topic because we need, and I'm emphasizing this because this is important right now. If you want to go to the playoffs, you need to have a strong defense. So let's go talk about that after I talk to you about my friends over at FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 in extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the net. So I have a couple of games that I'm looking forward to this year. And by a couple of games, I only have one game, and I'm a little bit biased about it, right? I'm a West Virginia alumni, okay? And right now, my West Virginia Mountaineers, are at 46-42 over the Colorado Buffaloes. Okay. So that for me is the game that I'm interested in. So this is what I am going to do. I'm going to go to my FanDuel app and I'm going to take the West Virginia Mountaineers on the money line. So visit fanduel.com and get in on college hoops action all tournament long. Let's go dancing over at FanDuel. Did you like that little twist at the end? I like that too. Let's talk about defense. Defense wins championships. Well, it's true. And right now, the defense on this team makes me nervous. And it's not because I felt like the defense had no talent other than Colton Parayko. Obviously, I know that's not true, right? I just feel like, and I don't think I'm wrong on this, when you lose your best defenseman, it puts you in a bad position. That's true with any NHL team. That's true with any sport. When you lose one of your best players, that messes up the dynamic of the team. Colton Parayko, I know he's in his 30s and he's not going to be here forever, and I get that. But they don't have a replacement for him, which is why without Colton Parayko, you have to depend on some other players. And again, I think Ryan Suter, and I'm not going to ever hate on Ryan Suter because I feel like he did an exceptional job this season. And again, he's 39. He stepped up big time for this team. So that's why, again, I can never slander my boy Ryan Suter, but we need to talk about the defense, right? Cam Fowler, he's going to listen. He was out because they had a baby, him and his wife. Congratulations, Cam. He'll be back against the Penguins tomorrow. But Cam Fowler and Nick Leddy as a pair. The thing with Nick Leddy, Big Fish Nick Leddy, if you don't know, Nick Leddy is like a huge fisher, completely random fact. I think he is a good player, but I just don't think he's been as strong as he usually was. I know he was out for a little bit. A lot actually. We're in the middle of March, but I just don't see that pair equaling up to what my boy Colton Parayko was able to do with Cam, right? Then we have Philip Broberg and Justin Folk. Justin, obviously, veteran, so is Nick. But Philip Broberg, too, he's been playing better. I think he's such a good offensive defenseman. And that's the good thing about him. Being a two-way defenseman in this day and age in the NHL is more common than anything. I think that just being a defensively minded player is what's a little bit more rare, right? So, again, not too concerned about that. You also have Ryan Suter and Tyler Tucker. And again, I can never slander my boy Ryan Suter. I think Suits has done a phenomenal job this season. If you don't recall, in the beginning of the season, he was playing in the first pair. And did I ever think he would be like a 1B? Probably not. Not at all, actually. I would have never guessed that. But he stepped up big time. So, again, nothing but respect for Suits. And Tyler Tucker. Tyler Tucker is an interesting player to me because he has so much physicality. He's a great skater. Sometimes I think it's a little bit of the spatial awareness that gets to be a little bit problematic at times. But again, he is a player that I really enjoy. The boys also did call it Matthew Kessel. I just don't see Kessel being a permanent option for the rest of the season unless there's another injury or they want to rotate him and Tyler Tucker. But they did that last season with Tyler Tucker and Scott Perunovich, and I'm going to be completely transparent with you. I thought it was a stupid decision because the guys could never get comfortable. And I think that was the problem too with maybe why Scott Perunovich didn't pan out for this team. And I don't know the specifics right. I'm just making a guess. I think it's because when you're getting taken in and out of the lineup every single game, you don't know if you're going to be staying up here in St. Louis or heading down to Springfield. That can sometimes mess with a player. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, these are professional athletes. Well, yeah, that's true. But there's also a sense of being able to adapt to the current pairing that you're in and getting used to it. And how can you do that when you never know if you're going to be playing or not? And plateauing in baseball, it's different, right? This is not baseball. This is hockey. And that's why I just think that right now, these defensive pairings, I'm fine with it. I wasn't expecting the Blues to make a trade to get a player that equaled up to the caliber that Colton Parayko was. I wasn't expecting that at all. But I was expecting maybe just get a good key piece. I'm not even going to say veteran because most of the guys are old, but just like a younger defenseman, a little bit more developed than a Tyler Tucker, and they did not do that. Again, I can't complain too much because I do feel like this defense will be fine. I knew they were struggling a little bit in the last game defensively, and that is expected, by the way. It's kind of like when Robert Thomas was out. When Robert Thomas was out, the offense struggled. Yeah, he's only one player. He's the 1C. But that made a big difference. And I feel like with Robert Thomas, he's also one of those players too that, and it's weird to say he's like a two-way offenseman, but in a way he is because he can drop back and play great defense when needed. So he's kind of like one of those players that's an all-around pro. And without him, the team did shake up for the worse. And I feel like Colton Parayko's absence wouldn't be as drastic as Robert Thomas's, except for the fact of preventing the other teams to score. That's where I get nervous. Will Tyler Tucker be able to skate back fast enough? I don't know. Nicoletti, like, this is the thing. As I said, this team, they're 24th on the power play. They're 29th on the penalty kill. That means that there's 3 other teams that are worse than the Blues on the penalty kill. That is not a good statistic. That's really, really bad. I worry about this team. I do, especially that penalty kill. And I don't think that I am wrong for expressing that this isn't the best situation for the Blues right now to have their best defenseman out when this team notoriously struggles. An element of the game that you can't really be messing up on. The PK is super important. So again, the boys need to finish the season strong, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what they need to do. But first, I'm going to talk to my friends over at Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed, it's all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and it helps you reach the right candidate faster. I've been in that spot where you need to hire somebody like yesterday and the pressure's on. And every day without the right person, it's a setback. And that's exactly what Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure that your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed, it's all you need. All right, we're going to finally get to Angry Haley of the day because I am pretty ticked off about the situation that this team is in. This team is 18th overall in the NHL. They have about 16 games left. Not a lot of hockey left. And I don't know if they're going to be making the playoffs. And here's the thing. You can look at other teams that are above the Blues right now, right? You can look at the Calgary Flames. You can look at the Canucks, even Utah, who was right behind. But at the end of the day, the Blues made the biggest mistake possible. And that was not playing their younger players. And I'm not saying, oh, they should tank, but they should tank, right? the thing is, I also don't know if this team is able to develop players properly. We saw what happened with Scott Brunovich. Tyler Tucker, it's not like they've been doing such a fantastic job with him, Matthew Kessel, and the list goes on and on. And when is enough enough? I need this team to be aggressive in the offseason with free agency. I do. And I don't want any more excuses from Doug Armstrong, saying, I just want to run it back. No, you've done that for 3 seasons. And newsflash for you, Dougie, you've missed the playoffs for 3 seasons. So I don't really understand that argument at all. But you know what? If that's what he wants to say to make himself feel better, that's completely fine. I think it's just not the best way to run your hockey team when your team has been struggling, first off. But we have a lot of players that will be free agents. And the most important thing is the unrestricted free agents. You might be wondering, Hale, uh, who will the Blues go after? And here's the thing. I don't have those answers because I don't know how Doug is. But there is a great amount of players. So let's go maybe look at some of these guys um, and kind of just see. So let's go look. You know what? Leap it. Age is important. So we're not, oh gosh, I like how the first thing that comes up is Brent Burns and Ryan Suter. Yeah, we're not going to do that. Let's go look at some young guys, okay? The youngest guys when it comes to free agents, 25 years old. A little old, but you know what? At least they're like developed, kind of, maybe. Ollie Lixell, he's actually on the Philadelphia Flyers, and he's the youngest player, and he's in his second year of his 2-year contract. Again, he's a center, but I don't think this team needs to go after a guy like him. So I'm going to say I will respectfully pass on Ollie Lixell. Listen, there's other players like a Mitch Marner. That's the type of guy you need to go after. But I feel like he is going to be very costly. I mean, $10 million right now, and he has a no move clause. But he's in the 6th year of his contract, and I just don't see that happening. Nathan Bastian, who is on the New Jersey Devils, would be a really good choice. But again, the Blues have to be willing to spend money. And if they're not going to do that, honestly, just hang it up because Doug Armstrong needs to be aggressive. Could you imagine if the Blues went after Kapanen again? He's on the Oilers now because we did trade him. But no, like we don't want Cappy. Now, a player that I said that I wanted for this team, who the Avalanche ended up getting, was Ryan Lindgren. And I said that the whole entire time, but you know what? You all said, no, it's going to be too expensive. And you know what? Another team ended up paying the price. So you have him. A lot of these guys, like Ivan Provorov, who is on the Blue Jackets. I mean, he's $6 million, 28-year-old left-handed defenseman, which isn't that bad. But still, at the same time, you need to go after players that are actually developed. Sam Bennett. Like, you just need to go after players that are on good teams because the chances are that they have a lot better skill than some of these younger guys on these bad teams. Please don't go after Tony D'Angelo. Like, that's the one player that I'm going to say no to. Then scrolling. Oh, you don't want to go after Aaron Ekblad. Some of these players, too, are also a little bit problematic. So I'm just going to scroll past them. Nick DeSimone from the Utah Hockey Club. Honestly, right-handed defenseman, good price. Not bad. But then we're getting into the guys in their 30s, and like, we don't want that. That's when they become too old, and we want to stay young. The goal is young. Am I calling myself old? Yeah, something like that. All right, on tomorrow's episode, we're going to preview the brother versus brother game with Matthew and P.O. Joseph and those Pittsburgh Penguins. Finally, we have a game again. But until then, I will talk to you later. And like always, let's go Blues.